Good work on that. That's a critical issue. Hey, have you noticed there is a prevailing theme here? Regulatory policy, and then we're talking about accounting, what's going on behind the scenes, and now insurance. Sounds boring, right? But these are critical steps if you are going to run a successful business. You got to know what to do and how to do it. And you saw there's also a prevailing theme. You've got the pros up here. You need resources. You need the smart thought leaders in each of these areas. You're meeting them today. I am so proud of that. And I am proud to welcome first Jody Green. Jody, you're a lawyer with Miller Nash, and you came to New York from LA just for this, and I thank you for that. You're a savvy litigator, and you're also a thought leader on cannabis and psychedelics. And thank you for your work with the NCIA, a wonderful trade association for our business. John Fleming, you're Triton Claim Management, and you manage nationwide litigation coverage and with several large cannabis insurers. Very important work. And Frank Galvin, thank you for being here. White Eagle Holdings, this is a massive property and casualty firm. Jody and team, take it away. Teach us what we need to know about insurance for our industry.
Thank you so much. So, I want to hear who's excited about insurance. Wow, guys. Okay, you kind of ruined my punchline, which was going to be nobody. But I'm glad to hear some clapping, so thank you very much. Part of my job is to make sure that insurance actually pays, because we hear a lot about why people don't like insurance, and they don't like insurance because they pay for policies, and the policies don't pay, right? But there's a reason for that, and there's something that we can do to try to bridge the gap to make sure that everybody gets paid and to maximize the value out of your insurance policies. So I'm going to turn it over first to Frank to talk a little bit about what types of policies companies should be looking for, and then we'll turn it over to John to talk about what claims we're seeing, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the tips and tricks to make the most of your insurance.
Okay, can everybody hear me with this thing? I don't know if it's working or not. All right, here we go. My name's Frank Galvin. I'm a published author. I've been in the insurance industry over 35 years. The opportunity was kind of dropped on my lap. Had an NBA player come in with his attorneys, and afterwards they asked me if I could insure about 40 dispensaries. So that got me going. All right, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so that started a 5-year journey, and what we ended up doing was we ended up forming our own insurance company, ended up traveling all over the United States, visited probably 500 to 1,000 farms. So I'm very familiar with every area of the country. Having said all that, what's the most important thing we talk about? Insurance. It's boring. Nobody wants it, right? But everybody needs to have it. What's the difference? The difference is, believe it or not, it's still federally illegal. That's good in one way and it's bad in another. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but a lot of insurance companies take advantage of that, okay? And we're the ones that suffer. So pretty much that is one of the things you want to think about. You have people coming in from paying $2 per thousand to $28 per thousand. And unfortunately, that's not very good for us. Okay, so what's the most important product we need? General and product liability is needed out there. That is pretty much what everybody should have. Is it required? It's not required here in New York. It's not required in New Jersey. It is required in a few states, but I can guarantee you, if you're going to be in business and take this thing serious, you need to have that, all right? So let's, 2 things you need to know about it. Yeah, there's claims made and occurrence. Most people have no clue what that means. Personally, it cost me $250,000 last month because I'm an insurance guy and I got stuck with a claims made policy. Long story, I ended up paying the bill. And that's what's going to happen if you don't understand what you're getting into. You want to make sure. I'll turn it over to Jody. She's more of an expert on that. Tell us a little bit about claims made and occurrence.
Thanks, Frank. We talked about this earlier, and I thought about it a little bit more, and I decided I didn't want to bore you guys with digging into the nuances of what's a claims made versus an occurrence policy. Do you know why? Because I know everybody in this room, you don't talk insurance talk, right? It's totally archaic. You have no idea what it is. My job is to translate that. If you have questions about your insurance policy, come find me later. I'm happy to dig into it for you. But Frank, please carry on with all the different coverages.
Yes,
we
I
talked
will.
about CGL.
Yeah.
What else?
One other thing I want to cover, you want an audit, a one-way audit and a two-way audit, and most people have no idea what that means. So if you don't have any idea what that means you're going to end up losing a lot of money. So again, we'll discuss that later if you're interested. Surety bonds. Everybody, most people, most states require surety bond, and those are pretty hard to get. So be aware, make sure you find a good insurance professional with experience in cannabis, very important. Workman's compensation insurance, that gets a little tougher to find, but you can find that pretty much anywhere. It is very expensive. A lot of your temporary workers are not going to be covered, things like that. Make sure that's taken care of. Commercial property insurance, probably the hardest thing to get. Commercial property, especially if you're out in the country, fire zone, you're going to have major problems. You need pros to do that for you. Commercial auto insurance, most people have no clue what they're doing. Everybody guarantees me that, oh, my commercial auto is covered. What they don't realize is the product, the cannabis in the back of the car is not covered. So you gotta kind of know what the heck's going on, otherwise it's going to cost you a lot of money. Crop insurance. Right now, nobody really has anything. I mean, the last one I looked at, the guy, they did about $600,000. They wanted $46,000 a year to insure that $600,000. And most of the time, tons of exclusions. You want to be careful with that. Transport, when you're transporting stuff, that is a major, major thing you need to be aware of. So you got to talk to your professionals. Officers and directors, for a public company, it's almost impossible to get. Okay, you got to really know your stuff, and you got to know who you're talking to. Probably the last thing is commercial crime. We're getting a lot of that in the West Coast, where it's inside job, and a lot of people are getting ripped off. So I'll turn it over to
John.
I'll take it over.
John, tell us about claims, because it's not an if, it's a when. They will happen. We've seen a lot of them against cannabis companies, and that's what insurance is for, is to protect against claims. But what John's going to talk about a little bit is what happens when your insurance policy has an exclusion or a contingency that will prevent your coverage from applying, which is what you don't want. But let's hear about it.
Great. So I'm the insurance adjuster that denies your claim. So if you look at it on the property side, we're seeing denials about 20 to 30% out of 10 claims presented. And on product liability, we're seeing 1 out of 10. So your contract doesn't perform. So it's an issue. What is it? It starts with your application, and it starts with your broker, who you have represent you to the carrier. The carrier is becoming very sophisticated, and they want to limit their exposures. So it starts with the application, and you need to understand, as Grazi and Associates was talking about earlier on the accounting side, good record keeping. What is your exposure? What are you looking to cover? And what we're seeing very frequent right now is fires and thefts. On the fires, we're seeing what they call protective safeguard exclusions, sprinkler systems, central alarm systems. And in grow area, especially in-house, we're seeing now bulb warranties, that the grow bulb has to have a 1-year warranty, and you represent that you change the bulb every 9 months. Otherwise, no coverage. I denied a claim before I came up here on Thursday for $14 million for an in-house grow operation in California. So I expect my adversary over here to send me a letter that I'm going to sue you on Tuesday. But it's very important that you understand that the application is the basis of which the coverage is issued, and it's also a basis of which we look for that denial basis. So it's a really point doing. A little bit that Frank had said about crime. We're seeing a fair amount of crime, inside jobs, especially on the dispensary sides, et cetera, about cash, the hoarding of cash. You got to look at your crime policy as well as your general liability policy and what safeguards are there in order to trigger the coverage. The day of using the broker that's down the street without expertise is gone. If you have a regular broker, you're going to have an exposure, and you're going to have to, deal with me where I have to deny your claim, unfortunately.
So you know what I hate? I hate when at parties I say I'm an insurance lawyer and everyone's eyes glaze over. And I see you guys are doing it too. So what I want to tell you is insurance is sexy, and here's why. Because you can buy an insurance policy that will protect you against very bad things from happening. And like John said, these things happen. We've already seen some claims in New York. We saw one recently, a big recall by a very large MSO because they didn't label their product properly. These things will happen, and you want to make sure you're covered. Here's how to make sure that you're covered. Read the insurance policy. It's about the fine print. It's about reading every word, and it's about getting somebody on your side to make sure that you understand what it's providing. And it's about getting on the same page with the insurance companies, because insurance companies make money by understanding risks. They don't want to deny your claims, right, John?
Absolutely.
They don't want to deny your claims, and they don't want me to come after them and sue them for denying claims wrongfully. But what happens is we need to get everyone on the same page so that the insurance companies know what they're covering and the policyholders know what's covered, right? So how do you do that? Do an audit of your risks. As a business operator, as an investor in a company, do an audit of all of your risks. You need to have a crystal ball. That's part of my job. I'm part lawyer, part fortune teller, part insurance policy wordsmith, and on my spare time, I talk on stages like today. But it's about reading the fine print. So if you have an insurance policy issued to a cannabis company, it has a cannabis exclusion, that's not good. Somebody's missing the ball there, and I've seen that happen. I've seen policies exclude coverage for products liability. If you're a retail operator and you're selling products like a vape pen at your store, and somebody walks out of the store and that vape pen explodes in their pocket and they get hurt and they sue you, you can get sued. And everyone else in the supply chain can get sued too. This is what people don't think about, right? You can all get sued. You might win at the end of the day, but it's very expensive to defend a lawsuit, and it's not very fun. I don't even like being involved in lawsuits, and that's my job. So what you need to know is read the fine print and get an advocate on your side that helps you understand it. Insurance agents do this to a certain extent, but insurance coverage lawyers like myself, we help everyone understand what they're getting into and help negotiate on the front end when you're getting your policy to make sure that the policyholder understands what's being covered and helps negotiate policy language that covers the risks that you need it to cover.
And if I may add to that, it
Please.
really starts with you as the operator to make sure that the insurance company as well as your broker understands your complete operation and all the hazards that are associated with your operation. So as we heard earlier in product liability or product recall, I have a case now on a product recall, multi-state operator, has an interstate exclusion, no coverage with regard for pulling the product off the shelf, and now subject to a class action lawsuit for which there's no coverage. So again, it really starts with you as the operator, own your business, make sure your broker and your carrier understands what the risk is. Otherwise, you could be facing, unprotected assets. It's very key.
And that's what this conversation is all about, right? That's what we're all here for, to make money, right? Whether you're an investor, you're an operator, or you're some ancillary provider, we're all here to make money. We're all here to really support the industry, right? To destigmatize the industry, to make it move forward. And unfortunately, the cannabis industry, as we've heard from many others, is very hard. It's very hard on businesses. It's hard to make money. You have 280E, you have tax issues. You have social equity problems. You have licensing complications. We have differing regulations throughout every single state, so it makes it very hard to do business. But one thing that you can rest assured for is if you pay attention to your insurance policy and you get the coverage that you need, the different coverages that some of them that Frank outlined, and even some more. If you're, a certain type of operator, you might want to look at cyber coverage and everything else that goes along with that, particularly these days.
There's one thing I'd like to mention too with regard to dispensaries. We're seeing a new restriction on the use of the premises. So it's solely for the cannabis distribution of the product and not any kind of specialized events you may have, et cetera. We had one dispensary that co-sponsored a street party. Unfortunately, there was a stampede of folks that were injured. And under our endorsement, there's no coverage because that's considered a special events exclusion. So again, if you have anything that is unusual or different than the normal operation, make sure your broker is aware of it and make sure that there's a review of policy by policy counsel or your broker.
One of the things, and the insurance agents, we take responsibility. Unfortunately, these guys, it's something new to them. Most of them don't deal with cannabis all the time, so it's very hard for them. Most of them don't know the companies that provide certain services or products and so forth. So we take full responsibility on that. So it comes back to getting a very good, knowledgeable cannabis agent. We started our own company because we did not like what was out there. And all of a sudden, it seems to be like we're a hit. So there's a reason for that. We went out there and we got your input and we created a company, an insurance company specifically for that. We know what the problems are with commercial auto. We know what the problems are with workers' comp or commercial property and things like that. So that's, you got to do that. You got to do that. After 5 years, we've kind of more or less putting it together.
Yeah. As you order your coverage and looking at your coverage, again, it's so important that you protect your assets. So what's your assets, what's your operation, that the underwriters, because the underwriters are being very sophisticated in terms of what perils or what hazards they want to insure and what they want to exclude. And it's important to you to make sure your assets are protected for further growth and success of your companies.
My firm has a motto. I should say the insurance recovery group of my firm, we are the people that go out and sue insurance companies when they do deny claims that shouldn't be. And our motto is insurance companies bad. I'm going to say one thing on that. I don't agree with it entirely. I don't think all insurance companies are bad. I think some people have had bad experiences because they're just not on the same page. But like I said, I think, and then John was trying to say as well, right? If you have the right advocate in your corner and you do make sure that the carriers understand the risks that you're really facing and make sure the policy language reflects that, it will pay at the end of the day. And we want to make sure that nobody in this room gets a denial letter. I spent most of my career actually working for insurance companies, stamping red denial stamps on top of claims. And now I'm on the policyholder side, and it's everything that I can do to try to fight back against that and to prevent that from happening.
And Jody, if I may mention on that, it's really a meeting of the minds of the insurance company and you as the policyholder. And your advocate there is your broker or on a higher level, your outside policy counsel.
Just want to say one thing. Insurance companies were not designed to pay claims, okay? They're designed to make money. Now, if it's a legitimate claim, yes, they're going to pay it. That they have all the criteria to do all that. But you've got to be careful, like Jody said. You have to take responsibility, and you need to really look at what you're paying for. Some of our people are paying tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in premium. Now, that's a lot of money, guys. That's a lot of money.
Let's talk about a few other exclusions that you should look out for on your insurance policy. So for those of you who are really bored before you go to bed and you want to read your 400-page insurance policy, here's what to look out for. John, do you have a few?
Yeah, for sure. On product liability, the product ingredients exclusion. A number of policies have certain ingredients that are excluded. Also, in terms of when the
So
coverage.
hang on, let's break that down. specified ingredients exclusion. So if you're any kind of product manufacturer or retailer, you want to look out for that. So it might be minor cannabinoids, it might be delta 8, it might be vitamin E acetate, which was sort of the precursor for the vape epidemic.
Caffeine.
It could be caffeine. It could be some other supplement that they don't want you putting in with your THC product. So you have to read the fine print of that sort of exclusion very carefully.
Just a quick note on that. One of the reasons we started our own insurance company, we realized there was almost zero claims paid on general liability. Okay, you guys know what that means? All that money goes right into their pocket and they're not paying any claims back. So those are the kind of things that we need to be aware of. And it's the nature of the cannabis business. When you have a big 10-foot fence around your building with security locks and everything else, not very many people from the public are going to come in and break their leg. Number two, any product that leaves the grow area is tested before it's left. So there's really not much risk there. And that's one of the things that we had Lloyd's, we had a bunch of other people looking into it, very few claims paid.
Yeah, Frank, if I may mention on that, you're spot on the product liability side, with regard to the exclusions.
I think that's our time, so thank you very much. Please, if anyone has insurance-related questions, come talk to us after. We'll break it down for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.